on this Mother's Day? Am I in the room by myself today? Good morning. Before we begin, just to let you know, tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, for some of you know Jan Masters, and Jan's funeral service will be tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock at Amity Rose Funeral Directors. Yes, Evelyn? That would be lovely, Evelyn. Yeah. Good morning, mums. And all you mums that are still laying back in your beds online, eating the breakfast that was prepared for you. I don't have apologies or confessions to make this morning. Both, I think. I realised last night that what I'm sharing with you today is the same passage I shared with you last year, this time last year. And I thought about it. I sat there thinking about that, and I thought, what did I think? What I thought was this: I want to say this again. You know, I want to share these things because I believe our kids need to hear these things, Mum. And then as I'm sitting down the back there, I realised that all the kids were filing out of the room. And then I thought, well, have I got this wrong then, Lord? And I thought again, well, but we're all kids, aren't we? You know, we've all got mums. You know, there's not a person on this planet who was not born of a woman. You know, and as Ryan said, today is a day to honour them. You know, in Genesis, we're told that Adam named Eve. You know, and the word he used when he called her Eve, he called Hava is the word, and it simply means source of life. And so, Evie, are you still in the room? Evie's out of the room at the moment, but the source of life. What a wonderful thought that is, when we contemplate the importance of our mothers within our lives. And so I want to share some stories this morning. There's a story that I share every Mother's Day since it's happened. It's one of my own personal stories, and I realised that again also this morning. And but it is a celebration of mothers, because Mother's Day is mother singular. It's not mothers plural. You understand that, don't you? It's your mother that you celebrate, that you honour today. And it's important, I think, we understand that. So there's a couple of things I'll do different from last year. And one of them I know I shouldn't do, but whenever I sit there going, should I or shouldn't I always do. And this will age you. It'll identify what generation you come from. It's a song. And it is a secular song, but it's a song that was, I think, late 70s. And it's a song that began with an oratory. The singer is talking through the story of their mother. See how far I get before you go, yes. And you realise that you're of my generation, okay? My sister's little boy, anybody? My sister's little boy came in the kitchen one evening while she was fixing supper, and he handed her a piece of paper he had been writing on. And after wiping her hands upon her apron, she took it in her hand and read it. And this is what it said. Anybody? No? Good. For mowing the lawn, $5. There we are. For mowing the lawn, $5. For making up my own bed this week, $1. For going to the store, 50 cents, obviously American. And playing with little brother while you were shopping, 25 cents. Taking out the trash, $1. And for getting a good report card, $5. for raking the yard $2, total owed $14.75. Well, she looked at him standing there and expecting, and 1,000 memories flashed through her mind. So she picked up pen and turned the paper over, and this is what she wrote. Hey, mums, for the 9 months I carried you, holding you inside me, no charge. For the nights I sat up with you and doctored you and prayed for you, no charge. For the time and the tears and the cost through the years, there is no charge. When you add it all up, the full cost of my love is no charge. For the nights filled with grey and the worries ahead, no charge. For the advice and the knowledge and the cost of your college, no charge. For the toys, the schools and the clothes, and for wiping your nose, there's no charge, my son. When you add it all up, the real cost of my love is no charge. After that, Mum had finished talking to her little boy. He looked at her with great big tears in his eyes, and he said, Mama, I sure do love you. And then reached out, he got the letter, turned it over, and he wrote in great big words, paid in full. I think that's the name. Was that the title of the song? When you add it all up, the real cost of my love is no charge. And it's true, isn't it, mums? It is so true. You know, a mother's love can't be measured. It can't be valued. You know? We read about examples of it in the Scripture. You know, and one of them that really speaks of that is one that disturbs us. It's a story where Solomon is involved, the wisest of men. And it's in 1 Kings chapter 3. You don't have to turn there because I know you all know the story. There are 2 women and 2 babies. 2 women had babies, and one woman accidentally, sleeping with her son, rolled on her son, and he suffocated and died. And in her grief, she switched her son with another woman's son and acted as if that baby was hers, and pretending that the other woman's baby had died. And when the woman realized the ruse, when the woman realized this is not my baby, that has died, the situation was brought before the king, was brought before Solomon. And so he was ruling this dispute. Now, Solomon didn't know which baby belonged to whom. And he simply says, you know what he said, don't you? He says, bring me a sword. And they brought him a sword, and he gives a command. Cut the living child in 2, give 1/2 to each mother. The baby's mother, real mother, instantly moved out of love for her son. She said, please, Lord, please, Lord, give her the baby. That's the real mother. Please, Lord, give this woman the baby. Don't kill my child. And the other mother, her reply was completely different. Her reply was basically, if I can't have him, neither of us will proceed. Right? Of course, Solomon recognized immediately, didn't he, the mother's heart. And she protected the life of her son to the degree, and it didn't matter to her. Even losing him was worth the life of her son. Now, it's brutal, isn't it? It's a brutally revealing account. But mums, there is no bridge, is there? There is no bridge too far when it comes to your children. Nothing will separate you from your children. And when you stop and you think about, the thousands of nappies that you have changed, the hundreds of hours of rocking that baby's cradle, pacing backwards and forward night after night into the wee hours of the morning, trying to get that little precious one to sleep. And when he or she would not sleep, that is normally followed by many hours of driving around. Remember this, mums. You know this, mum. Driving around in the empty streets of your suburb to try and get, again, Precious to sleep. And the countless illnesses, the temperatures, the holding vigil at baby or little one's bedside. You know, it's the tantrums, it's the crying, it's all of these things that go on. It's the TV programs, the hours and hours of TV programs that turn your brain to mush, right? All of that. Losing sleep, cleaning up vomit. Do I need to go on with a list? Holding your tongue when they were teens. Oh, that's tough, right? And after even standing by your child, your adult child, when they have gone the wrong way. After raising their grandchildren, because they suddenly realised you exist again. I sound jilted, don't I? And of course, tragically, it's after for some mothers having buried a child. You know, someone said motherhood is a soul-stretching experience. It really is, isn't it? It really is a soul-stretching experience. And while we cannot measure it like that song, you know, paid in full, it does come with reward, doesn't it? It comes with real reward, immeasurable reward, equally unmeasurable reward, right? And it begins where? Well, it begins the moment a mother knows that she is pregnant, right? And she begins to form and adapt her life around that child. And the bonding that begins in the womb, it's pretty near impossible to break. I've seen it 3 times, you know. We dads, we don't get to feel that, do we? We don't get to feel that life moving within us. We don't get the emotional and the physical and the spiritual awareness that this life is completely and totally dependent upon me. You know, what she eats, what she drinks, how she feels, how she thinks. On every human level, there is an impartation of who she is to that child. Right? And we fathers, no, we don't get that. I mean, we look at our children and we go, right? We grunt. This is our Tim Allen moment, you know. We look at our children and we go, oh yes, flesh and my bone, and that is very, very true. But these same children that we look upon as dads with a protective fatherly pride, you know, she literally, husbands realize this, she literally nourished that child with her own flesh and her own blood. They gave them life of their own substance. And that's a bond that I don't believe is perceptible to anybody other than that mother. In fact, I'm convinced it is the very foundation of a child's emotional and physical well-being. I believe it starts there. Not to put too much on you, mums. Right. But you know it's true, don't you? You know it's very true. Correct me if I'm wrong. What's this statement? You can cut the umbilical cord. You can grow up and they can form their own family, but as long as she lives, you know, there remains a conduit between her and you, that woman that will never, ever, ever be broken. It can't be. Nothing comes between a mother and her child. That's mum. Proverbs, this is the verse we looked at last year. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7. It says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. My son, hear the instruction of your father, and do not forsake the law of your mother, for they will be grateful ornaments on your head and chains about your neck. Proverbs 23 also says in verse 25, let your father and your mother be glad, and let her rejoice who gave you birth. Sons and daughters, whether young or old, Your mother, I'll say it again, is the foundation of life. So be reminded this morning, this is all I want to say to you again this year. Be reminded again of what Solomon says, on this Mother's Day, knowing that the strong confidence that you have, the deep satisfaction that you have received, that comes from a growing truth that our mothers imparted to us. And it returns to her. It returns to her in joy and honor. There's the reward, isn't it, Mum? It returns in joy and honor. Well, that song was, it was big in its time. And to say that it can be paid in full, no. But it returns in joy and honor. And so the idea is this. If you will receive the instruction of truth that is coming from your godly mother, it will adorn your life like a crown upon your head or a chain around your neck. It will beautify your life. It will bring honor to your life. It will do all of those things. And you could say it'd be a crown of knowledge or wisdom and grace upon your life, a crown of joy upon hers as well. See, the best way, this is what I would say to all children, the best way to make your mother happy is to be a righteous child, is to have a righteous life. You see, your mother has a great desire and hope that all of her children, all of the children that she carried in birth, will be godly. Think about this. Your mum didn't conceive you, carry you, birth you, nurse you, tirelessly raise you because she had nothing better to do. No mother entered into it like that, no. She was bringing another human being into this world that would be an extension of herself and her husband, right? That's what she was doing. This is the conscious reality of what's going on. Your mother had a great desire and a hope, again, that all of her children would know the God of salvation, that they would learn of the goodness and of the life that has been granted and purposed to them by God. A godly mother recognizes this. She looked at you in her arms, and she prayed for you that you would not only be wonderfully blessed. Come on, Christian mum, who didn't do that? She looked at you in her arms, and she not only prayed for you that you would be wonderfully blessed in life, but that you would also be a wonderful blessing in this world. She wanted the best for you, and she wanted you to be the best for others. For Solomon, he says that for a godly woman, that's the great prize of life. If you heard and you received and you walked in the knowledge of God, there is great comfort in your mother's heart. Doesn't matter where you are on the planet. Doesn't matter how far away you are. Remember, that umbilical cord, is gone, but that which links you, the desire within her heart for your life, we can bring great comfort to them. And I know this is true. Here's the story that I have told every Mother's Day since it took place. And it's about my mum. I remember, I can still see her sitting there in her red cardigan. And I'm talking to a group of mothers, of elderly women, right? Again, one of whom is my mother. And I was talking to them about Mother's Day and how important it is how important it is for my mum, Mother's Day, right? And I talked about who I was. I talked about wetting my bed. I've still got vivid memories of waiting in, cold Albany mornings in our state housing house where the wind was blowing under the floorboards and sitting there on the corner. I can still see myself sitting on the corner of this bed, and it's like 2, 3 in the morning and watching Mum just making that bed and then putting me back into that warm, comfortable bed. I remember it well. I don't know how old I was. I remember that. I talked about that. I talked about the bully that was up the street that caused me to walk a whole block for about a whole term of school, the long way to get to school because of the way he was treating me and the way Mum comforted me and the way Mum gave me the strength to walk straight up our street to the school, to face my fear and to grow strong. And I talked to Mum about my mum when my life fell apart, and how I discovered that she had always been praying for me. And I talked to them about the day that I fell, and I know I've said this to you before. I know the day that I fell on my knees with my head in her hand, fell on my knees with my head in her knees, crying like a baby. And to this very moment right now, I can still feel her hands running through my hair. I can feel it, and I can hear her saying, "It's going to be okay." Just those words, they echo in my heart this very moment. And every struggle of life, I hear those words. I hear them, right? And I talked about Mother's Day again, as I said to you earlier, how Mother's Day was deliberately called Mother's Day singular, not Mother's Day plural, because we are here to celebrate that person, that individual, right? And as I went through all of this, telling these stories, and I talked about those things, and I pointed to the woman in red, in the red jumper, and I said, that's my mother. And as she sat there, I watched her, and she literally raised up in her seat, She beamed with pride, She was, and I'm convinced as I was telling those stories, all of those memories when we're flooding back into this precious woman, right? And I knew that it brought her joy. But here's the thing, I've got to tell you this as well. I've also been very foolish. Gasp of surprise. I have been very, very foolish, right? And I have brought my mother so much grief. Sorry. But shame. I've even brought shame, And if I had continued on the course of life, I know that all those joyful memories that my mother left this world to go into the presence of the Lord with, I know that they could well have been shattered, right? But you know the reason they are not? Why she left this world with great joy in her heart because of her children, and why the memories of her children always brought her comfort, is because she was a godly mother. That's why. Because she was a godly mother who lived, hear this, mums, who lived an authentic, godly Christian life. She was a woman who prayed for her sons and her daughter, right? It's always mum, isn't it? The one who conceived and carried us, the one who gave birth, the one who nursed us, the one who raised us. It's always mum. She had the words. I remember the day I stole 20 cents out of a purse. It was a crime, believe me. Mum says to me, this happened every morning. She sent me down to her bedroom to get her purse so she could hand out 20-cent coins to her children, because back then for 20 cents you could get a good feed. All right? And here's the thing. Ricky Williams had been to school the day before. You know what Ricky Williams had? He had a $5 note. What is that? What is a boy doing with a $5 note? And at lunchtime and at play school, Ricky Williams is just laden with lollies. They're just all, I got 20 cents in my pocket. Mum sent me the next morning down to the bedroom to get that purse. And I went into the bedroom, I opened it up, and I stole 20 cents out of Mum's purse, put it in my pocket, believing I was going to end up with 40 cents that day. Brought the purse, gave it to Mum. She opened it up. She took the 20 cents out. She gave us all 20 cents. She closed the purse, and And she looked at me and said, Chris, why did you do that? Why? And that was Mum. You know, I remember as a teenager waking up one morning with Mum standing over top of my bed, waving a bag of pot in my face. I'd been out the night before with friends, with this new experience of life, too young, too stupid, left it in pocket. Mum waved it over my head, didn't say a word, and she turned around, walked out, and the next thing I hear the toilet flush. Not a word is said. We have breakfast, get dressed. I get in the car. She's driving me to school. And she's waiting for the perfect moment. And she does it again. She says, Chris, why? You know, why do you need that? You know? And then she talked about, because I'm an asthmatic and I've got all these, you know. And she's amazing. You know. She always had the words. Sorry, I'm talking about my mum. But this today is about my mum, as today is about your mum. She knows the way to go. And she also taught us what it is to obey and honour her and Dad. She taught us that. She taught us what it means to obey and honour the Lord. I know my mum taught me that. She led us in the knowledge of Christ. She taught us obedience and honour. She showed us respect. She showed us reverence. She showed us regard and love and affection. And she gave us godly principles to live our lives by. She gave us an authentic faith. Think about this also, and I'll end here. It can truly be said, because I have a godly mum, I'm not going to end up a drunkard. Because I have a godly mum, you know, my life is going to be prosperous. Because I have a godly mum, I'm not going to live a promiscuous life. Because I have a godly mum, I'm not going to live my life as a lawbreaker, trying to do deals here, there, and every way, always trying to get by being deceitful. No. I'm going to grow up with godly principles to lead my life by. Sure, I lost my way for a while. But those foundational years, those principles that were driven into us by love and compassion and acceptance, I can never, ever remember being rejected by my mum. She's God sent. That's who mums are, right? So think about that, please. It's all because we have a godly mother. And I will just say this. Godly parentage is truly, truly the greatest gift we can give our children. It is. Can I ask you to think about one more thing as the worship team comes up? Our mothers are women of many, many hats, right? I wrote this list down. They are chefs, they are dietitians, they are nurses, they are philosophers, they are mathematicians, they are lawyers, they are judges, they are moral compass. They are teachers of discernment, of manners and modesty. They are a chauffeur. They're referees. They're preachers. They're examples of faithfulness and righteousness and justice, compassion and forgiveness. Do you want to add to the list? There's so many, many, many more. So I say all of that this morning. And I share my story. I share my Mother's Day. So that you might take the time to reflect the magnitude of the importance of that woman that you call Mum. Let your father and your mother be glad, and let her who bore you rejoice. So don't forsake her teachings. Let it be a crown of grace to your head. Let it be a crown of joy upon hers. I say this every year. Please leave this place. Go and say the things that need to be said. Do the things that need to be done. Embrace them, love them, comfort them. Tell them just how important they are. And if your mother is not here, lift your head to heaven and thank them. Because I know where my mother sits today. And I know not everybody got that, Mum. I know that. And for you, we pray God's comfort. We pray God's comfort and God's assurance that where we as humans fail, He wants to step in. And He wants to be our comfort. He wants to be our strength and our assurance. And above all things, the guiding light for our lives. God bless you. Do the right thing today. Amen. Let's worship God.